Hi guys, welcome to Professional Video Transitions in Adobe After Effects CC 2018. I am very happy that you decided to enroll in this course. This is your great step towards starting to learn some professional techniques in After Effects. You will start this course by learning the concept of video mats, how to create them, how to use them, if it is in After Effects or Premiere Pro. In the second part of the course, I will show you how to use certain motion graphics techniques and visual effects to build more than 30 transitions. These will be very useful to you in your visual effects project or video editing projects. Honestly, guys, I hope you will enjoy this course. And if you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A section of the course dashboard, and I will be very happy to help you. So let's dive in and start creating some transitions and transition mats. See you then. Welcome guys. Before we start creating complicated motion graphics and turning them into video transition mats, I would like to give you a brief, if you like, about what are transition mats. Transition mats, in principle, they are videos that you can apply to create a transition using the track mat, if it is After Effects or Premiere Pro. So actually they will allow you to transition from one video to another. How these transition mats are created? You create first the motion graphics. For example, here we have Matte Grid Wipe. It's a composition. If you double click, you can view the motion graphics. Here you are. It's very simple. This is almost 2 seconds here. It's a motion graphics and it ends up with white. If you come back to your test video, you notice that this is a video that you have applied over here, and it is the transition mat. So the workflow goes like this. You create the motion graphics and you create it in a certain way that it can become a mat. Then you turn it into a video, you render it into a video, and then you can apply it. If it is in After Effects or real professional good video mats can be applied in Premiere Pro. You see here, this is our promo video. Maybe you have watched it. It has the transition here. So if you create a real professional and good transition mats, you can use them in your video editing program. In this case, for this course, we are going to see how to use them in Premiere Pro, one of the best video editing programs. So video mats, professionally created and well designed, can be used in your After Effects visual effects project if you like, or in your video editing program. And the way we go about it is to create the motion graphics, render it to a video, and then come and apply it to our transition in After Effects or Premiere Pro. It is as simple as this. In this course, I will take you step by step on how to create your video mats and what kind of techniques and methods you use to create the motion graphics and how to apply it in After Effects or Premiere Pro. So let's dive in and start creating our first mat in the next lecture. Thank you. I'll see you then. Hi guys. Welcome to creating your first transition in this lecture. It's going to be a simple transition, but we're gonna compile it with the techniques of creating transitions. So let's start. Of course, you want to import your footage. So in any version of After Effects, you will come to the project panel, you right click and go import file. You navigate to where you have saved the sample videos I gave you. They are all 5 seconds and 30 frames per second. I will select all of them just like this and click on import. From here, we'll start with only 2 clips to create a transition in between these 2 clips. I will select number 4 and number 5. They're quite cool. To create a composition from footage, you just right click on the footage after selecting them and you go new composition from selection. Here you have the new composition from selection panel. You want to create a single composition, of course. And then in the option here, you have the dimensions from any one of them. They are identical in this case. I will take number 4 is okay. And you want to sequence them with an overlap, which is 1 second. 1 second is the overlap, also is the duration of the transition you will create. I'll click OK. Now you'll start creating the first transition. So I will start. I will select the rectangle tool and just draw a rectangle here. It doesn't matter the size and so on. We are going to adjust it. Then I want to put the anchor point in the middle. It's a good habit. You can use the shortcut Control Alt Home on the PC or a Mac Command Option Home. If you don't have a Home or this shortcut is not working because of keyboard conflict on the Mac mainly, you can use the pan behind, then come and select your layer, of course. Then click on the anchor point and you can drag it around. Now to snap it, if your snapping is off, you can use the Control or Command key and then it will snap in the middle or wherever you want to put it. I'll just put it over here. This is just a habit. Fine. Let's adjust the dimension and the position. In the rectangle one, you twirl it down, you go to rectangle path 1, and in the size here, let's imagine we want to use the repeater to create 10 rectangles coming one after the other. Well, the best size will be the width of the composition, that's 1920, and then you divide by 10, as simple as this, and you get the right size 192. It was obvious, of course. Then you want to align it to the left. Here you are. Cool. So we created our first rectangle, and now you want to introduce the repeater. You'll come next to contents, there is add, you click on it, and then you go to repeater. It's very easy to use the repeater, by the way. The first thing, if you twirl down repeater, you have the options of the copies and then the transformation of the repeater. In the copies, we want 10 of them, okay? Then you open transform repeaters. This is how the transformation for the repeater is going to happen. And in position, we had 192, the size of the rectangle here. How about if you do it 196, so it moves a bit more. So we have like 4 pixels here in between. It's quite cool. Then if you like, you can click on your layer and use the arrow keys just to adjust it a bit, okay, to make them a bit symmetric if you like to, if you are meticulous like I am. So now you have set your mat you want to animate. To animate it, let's animate the number of copies. So let's go after 1 second. So this is 1 second exactly over here. And we keyframe the number of copies. We go to the beginning and we put the number of copies to 0. Here you are. You have a very nice animation and very simple. To make it more interesting, you can play with the end opacity or the start opacity. Let's keyframe the end opacity at 0% and then go after 1 second, just jump like this and make it 100%. So notice how the animation is a bit different but slightly smoother on the opacity. Cool. Now at the end over here, we don't want these lines to be on the video. We want to cancel them. Well, the best way to do it is to increase the size of the rectangle itself just a bit, or to recover the 4 pixels if you like. Fine. So when do we want to start to do that? If you scrub through, you will notice that it's pretty interesting up to here, and maybe you start canceling the spacing just from here. That's cool, few frames before. So we'll come to size, we keyframe it, and then we go to the next keyframe, the visible one here. I can use K to jump to this keyframe and put it at 196. So we have a very simple and beautiful transition over here, or a mat if you like. Cool. Of course, you can come over and choose your keyframes, select all of them. If you like, I will select only these 4. There is no point of this size because it's too small. Press F9 to make them easy ease. It's gonna be a bit nicer, just a bit, not much. Now that we have created our mat, let's rename the layer. We call it transition mat. We want to connect the lower layer to the mat itself. For this, you need to have the transfer mode here open. If you don't see mode and transparency and track matte, just come to the icon over here. Expand or collapse the transfer controls. You click on it, they disappear. You click on it, you enable it, they appear. These are the transfer modes. Here we are going to use now Luma inverted. Here you are. So here now we have a very nice transition, but we don't have a bottom layer. Cool. So we're going to adjust it for the 1 second here. Select the last layer, press I to go to its endpoint, and then let's take the mat itself and snap it to the endpoint. Here you are. Then select the top layer, press O, you will go to the out point, and simply select the first layer and use the shortcut Alt right square bracket to cut it off. Here you are. Or Option right square bracket to cut it off. Now let's zoom in and see exactly if We are doing very well. Actually, we are doing pretty well. Let's zoom out. Let's play our animation. For example, we start just before. Put the start here. We press B for start, N for end, and we play in between just to save time on you. Cool. Very nice transition. Fine. So now that you have created our transition, in the next lecture, we want to make this transition portable, meaning we can take it to other software than After Effects and have the same effect for the transition. We are going to use Premiere Pro as an example in this first section. Thanks very much for listening. I hope this was a nice one and you can make some changes. In the next lecture, we go to render. Hi guys, in the previous lecture we created this simple transition but beautiful one, and if you notice we have a layer here, just a layer, and it's very connected to After Effects. This shape layer here, I cannot really take it anywhere. You need to create a video from this shape layer, and then it will be very portable to anywhere you want, including After Effects, by the way. So the way I will do it is to create a pre-composition from the transition mat. I will right click on it, say pre-compose, and of course transition mat, and I'm gonna remove comp 1, we don't need it, and then move all attribute into the new composition. Of course, adjust the duration of the time span of the selected layers, so it's gonna be 1 second, the new composition. I will click OK. Here you are, you have a 1 second composition that will just open. It's pretty fast, right guys? Okay, in this composition I want you to see the transparency. This is how I'm gonna do it. You come to the bottom here, it says toggle transparency grid. If you put it on, so now it's highlighted, it's on, it means you are seeing what's transparent. When you have these gray and white squares, it means this is the transparency, and this layer here or whatever is on the screen now is transparent. If you play your animation, you noticed how the white rectangle is gonna appear, and now it's not transparent at all. It is 100% opaque because of the white. Cool guys, so this is the transparency, and you need to render with transparency so the transition can work perfectly. Cool. So now this is still a pre-comp. If you notice, it's still working here as a pre-comp. What you have to do is to turn it into a video. For this, you want to use the render. So select your composition, transition mat, go to composition and say add to render queue. In the render queue, let's open the best settings, and you want it at its best. The size is 1920 by 1080. Well, actually, this composition, you can scale it up as much as you want because it's only shape layers and they will scale nicely. 1920 by 1080 is okay for us. There is nothing else to change here. To lossless, let's go to lossless now. In lossless, I'm gonna use the AVI. So I'm using Windows, so it's gonna be AVI. If you are on Windows and you start using QuickTime, in Premiere Pro, it's gonna give you a warning that QuickTime Legacy will not be supported anymore. So you better off start using AVIs, which is okay. Now, from the channels here, you don't want RGB. You want RGB plus alpha because we want to see the transparency when it appears within the video. And then for the format options, in AVI, there is nothing to do here. So the most important was RGB plus alpha. Remember guys. And if you are on Mac, please use the QuickTime. I will show you an example. And in the QuickTime, the format option, you cannot use H.264. H.264 does not have any transparency. So you want to use JPEG 2000, and this is the best to have transparency. If you select it from here, you go OK, and you see you have RGB plus alpha. Cool. I go back to AVI because I'm on window. Here I am. And I have RGB plus alpha. Alpha is the transparency. If you forgot, click OK. And in the transition mat, I'll click on it and save it in my course assets, for example, or anywhere you want. You can create a folder called transitions and save it there. I will keep the name transition mask. Here you are. Fine. And then I will render. It's going to take only a few seconds. It's just 1 second and it's working. Let's go back to our main composition here, and instead of having the comp itself, we are going to import our video. I will go import file. That's the video transition, of course, and here it is in AVI. I will just import it. Then I want to replace this pre-comp or this composition with the video. I will just select both of them. I'll select this one and click on this, then press Alt or Option on the Mac, click and drag and drop it. Notice nothing will be changed except the content itself. Here you are, you still have the Luma inverted, and if you play, you have it fantastic. Fine. So now instead of using a pre-comp or something, we have used a video. So now you have an AVI video that you can use as a transition anywhere you would like. In the next lecture, we'll go to Premiere Pro and I will show you how to apply this transition within the video editing program. I'll see you then. Hi guys, in the previous lecture we created a video mat. We called it transition mat. Now we are in Premiere Pro. If you don't know Premiere Pro, I have a very good course. You can go and learn it. It's the best video editing program. And this is where you are going to edit your 2 hours movie or your 10 minutes for YouTube or even 2 minutes. And you want to add these transitions that you have created in After Effects. There are several ways to do that, but I'm going to show you the easiest way. Remember, we already rendered and created a video, so we are not going to use dynamic linking. So I already imported the footage over here. I want to import the transition. It's very easy. From the project panel, that is the project transition, I call the project here transitions. You right click and you say import, and here is the AVI file transition mat, and I will click open. Now let's create a sequence with the 2 clips that we used in After Effects. You can choose any other clip. I will click and drag to create the sequence. Here we are. What we want to do is to start with the clip 4 and then transit to the clip 5. Like we have done in After Effects, we want this layer to be on top. And let's go to 4 seconds. Here you are, because I know there are 5 seconds. So I go to 4 seconds, then select the bottom one and snap it to the timeline indicator or the playhead. I will take now the transition itself and just drop it on top, exactly like After Effects. But the lower layer is not connected to the transition yet. They just appear, as a motion graphics we like. We need to connect through Luma inverted. For this, there is a special effects. Let's go to the effects panel. If you click on it here, you can see it. And then you want to look for mat. Here you are. You can type mat and you have the track mat key. This is the one that we are going to use. You click on it and you drop it on the clip 4. Here you are. Then you go to the effects control panel over here and you can see track mat key. The mat itself is the video 3. Notice here we don't use the names. We use V1, V2, V3. So this is video 3. This is the mat itself. And then compositing using mat alpha or alpha mat in After Effects or mat luma or luma mat in After Effects. Here you are. And you want to invert it. So actually, if you want to translate it into After Effects, it will be invert luma mat. Here you are, luma mat. Now, if you run, I press space bar. Here you are, pretty beautiful. You got your transition in Premiere Pro. If you're using another program, you will find similar mats. You have taken a transition that has been created in After Effects, render it as a video, and then play it here. Now, why did I make it a video and render it? Now, first of all, dynamic linking is pretty good. But then I will still using After Effects to dynamic link. And sometimes you need to open After Effects for the dynamic link to be quite good. Using a rendered video, it's much better and much easier. And if you note, it will play very nicely in Premiere Pro. So in this couple of lectures, you learned a lot, guys. You created a transition in After Effects. You created a video transition. You brought it into your video editing program. And here you are. You are already doing professional transitions within the After Effects and the video editing program, in this case, Premiere Pro. Hi guys, I am sure that you know how to use the repeater and even the double repeater. I would like you as a practice activity and also a challenge to create this kind of transition. Look how beautiful it is. It's very beautiful. If you go slowly, you notice that there is some very nice texture that has been created there. Now, there are a few tips I will give you here. First of all, I made it 2 seconds because I actually like it. I don't want it 1 second and fast. So 2 seconds is okay. Now, let's go to the matte itself, which I did not render yet. I will double click here. I will remove the effect I used here, and you notice there is only a circle around here with two repeaters. So there is a shape that's a circle with two repeaters and the vector effect. I should not show you that, but it's okay. So we remove it. Now, within the shape, you have several choices. You can have an ellipse or you can have a rectangle. Notice the effect here is totally different with the vector. Now, the CC vector blur, I set it the way I like. You can set it the way you want. Or you can have, for example, a polystar. Here I used an octagon, okay, 8 sides, and it's pretty beautiful. If you want to see the changes, here you are. We go back to practice and notice the change now. It's pretty cool and pretty nice. Now, it's up to you to create it. There is more. You can add more effects. Let me fix it and I get back to you, but I'm not going to show you the effect. Okay, so let's have fun. I added one more single effect and look at the result now. It's becoming even more mysterious, pretty beautiful. Look at it. You know, when you do this kind of jobs, though they are very easy, you will look like a pretty professional. Guys, this is your practice activity. I gave you a few tips. It's up to you now to go and do it. In the next lecture, you will have the tutorial for this practice activity. See you then. Okay guys, this is the tutorial for the practice activity from the previous lecture. It's pretty easy. I will show you how I've done it. You start by creating something like this. So you have simple circles that are growing. You notice how? Simple. Let's see how this was done, the circles. If you come to the mat itself, all I have here is an ellipse that I use two repeaters to repeat it horizontally and vertically. The first repeater, we take this ellipse and repeat it just down. Okay, I have 4 or 5 copies, something like this. The second repeater will take the ellipse and repeat it horizontally. Maybe you have 7 or 8 of them, okay, depending on the size of your ellipse. Combined, they will give you horizontal and vertical replication. Cool. Now the animation here, I did not use the copy, but I used the transform for the ellipse itself, or I call it here the shape. I will show you why I added more shapes to demonstrate to you. It's actually animating the scale from 0%, the circle starts growing, and then to much more than 100% to cover the whole screen. So actually you have a very nice mat. Now, before switching to the effect, notice that you can use different kind of shapes. For example, I'm showing you about the ellipse, but you can use the rectangle, which with the effect will give you something very nice. The rectangle, of course, you draw one rectangle, repeat it down, then repeat it horizontally, or the other way around, it doesn't matter. And it's not animated, so you can really adjust it the way you want, and you animate the scale of the shape itself, not the layer, guys, okay, not the transform from the layer, but the shape itself. Cool. Now you can have also a polystar, which in our case here, it's a polygon that has 8 sides. If you go back and see how the polystar is working, it's pretty nice. Maybe you would like to stop over here. But I'm greedy, I would like to add more effects. So if you come to the mat itself, and let's choose, for example, the ellipse to start with, and you have the vector here. This is the CC vector blur. The CC vector blur is very easy to use. Notice what's happening. It's trying to blur all around it. So you can have several types. For example, the constant length, if you like, the perpendicular, whatever type you want to have. You can decide, okay, this is what I want to have within my transition. Here you are. Now this is pretty beautiful here. Depends on your taste and how you want to tweak it. Cool. So within the vector blur, you have a lot of choices to create your ellipse or to create your mat. Notice it's quite beautiful. I chose natural and it's quite cool for me. Notice it's not bad at all. Fine. The amount, it depends on how much you want to do. You can make it excessive, small, whatever. I did not use the angle offset. I just left it the way it is. But it's just kind of rotation if you like. Pretty easy to use, and you can fiddle with it the way you want. So here, let's see how the polystar will look like. Okay, if you go to the main comp now, so this is done and we have used a single effect. How about if I use the radial blur? And the radial blur now is a blur, but from the center has a certain effect that's pretty beautiful. Let's go see it, and you have this kind of effect if you like. Fine, pretty cool. But also I like to fiddle a bit with the radial blur, put it over here. Okay, notice what's happening now, and maybe decrease it a bit. Okay, just like this. So notice the animation here, or the mat itself, it is quite amazing just with a simple addition of a blur. Now if you go back, depends on your taste, you can tweak it the way you like, and here you are. So actually it's pretty easy. A shape and a couple of repeaters, some vector blur and radial blur, and notice you could have other blurs that you can use, and here you are, you have a professional transition. So it's up to you guys now to come and play and find the transition you will want to create. Please guys, render your transition or render a sample video like I have done here and post it on YouTube, and let me see, let everybody see your work and be proud of what you're doing. If you complete this course, you will have a ton of transitions that you can use in your projects or give to your friends or even sell if you like. I'll see you in the next lecture. This is the transition we want to create together now. We are going to use a shape layer in a form and arrow and the repeater. So let's start creating our mat. For this, you need a test composition, of course. Then I used clip 4 and clip 3, which are overlapping with 1 second. You can use your own videos. In fact, it's better if you use your own videos. You can relate to them much better and you can tweak the transition the way you would like. I'll show you now how to create the arrow in After Effects. Let's zoom out a bit. Then you want to use your rectangle tool, but make sure that the Bezier path is checked. We want to create a Bezier shape and not a parametric shape. We want to have a path and add some points for the arrow. Fine. Since we want to add a shape layer, make sure you deselected everything, and let's add a shape layer as big as you like. Now this is the thickness of the arrow, so make sure you have a nice thickness, not too small and not too large. In fact, if you like, you can have too small, then you'll have many of them. Large, you have a few of them. So I'll make it in between. I think this is fine enough. Okay. Then I would like to center it in the middle of the composition. Select the shape layer, put the anchor point in the middle using Ctrl-Alt-Home or Command-Option-Home on the Mac. If this is not working with you, your keyboard doesn't have the home or there is a problem, you can use the pan behind and then click and drag the anchor point using the Control or the Command. It will stop in the middle. Fine. Now I will zoom in so I can see where I want to put the new points, and actually I want to put them exactly where these rectangles are, but I want to use the path over here, so I want to put them on the path. Now to put them in the middle, I have no clue where's the middle. So how about if you use the rulers? To bring up the rulers, you press Ctrl R or Command R on the Mac. You can see the rulers. You need a vertical ruler, so you come on top over here and you click and drag it down. Actually, there is already a ruler. This ruler now, you want it in the middle of the comp, but how would you know it's in the middle? Well, you can use the info panel here. Click on your ruler and start moving it up and down. Where do you want it? This composition is 1920 by 1080 vertically. So 1080, the middle is 540. So I click on the ruler and try to put it on 540. If it's giving you a hard time, you can zoom in and be much precise. Notice when I point it to the ruler, it says y equal 540, exactly in the middle. Now, select your pen tool. Here you are. And of course, you select in the path. And then make sure that the view you have snap to guide on. Here you are. Then I will come over here and it's gonna snap to the guide. One is over here and one is over here. Of course, it's not gonna put a point for me in the middle of the rectangle. It's gonna put it on its path, which is the border. Fine. Using the selection tool now, you select your 2 points. You notice this one is already selected. I will just press shift, select the second one, then click on the right one, for example, press shift and move it to the right. Here you are, the arrow is being created. Very neat. Let's zoom out. See, this arrow is not bad, guys. Let's click on it, put the anchor point in the middle of the layer. That's my habit. Press shift, take it out over here. Now we need to fill the screen with this arrow with some nice animation. Of course, I need the repeater. For the repeater, I would like to use 6 or more copies. Okay. Then I will come to transform repeater 1, of course, and the position you want to scrub through. So you go as much as you can. This is pretty cool, by the way, just like this. Now let's create the animation. Let's come to 1 second. Okay. And we want to use the number of copies. I'll keyframe the number of copies. Go to the beginning, make it 0. And I have a very simple and nice animation. Press spacebar. Here you are. Quite smooth. Let's stop it at 2 seconds so we don't waste time. I just press N to bring the work area and to the timeline indicator. After you have replicated the arrow, you need to fill the screen. For this, you can scale it. It will be nice, but I do prefer to use the stroke and give the stroke a different color. And then when you use the Luma inverted, it's gonna give you a small effect here, which is very beautiful. Let's go to the beginning now. Let's find the stroke. It's just over here. Keyframe the stroke. I believe it's at 0. Here you are. And then let's come at 2 seconds, for example. Make the stroke as big as necessary to fill the whole screen. Now notice I have a slight problem here. If I go like this, it's filling the screen, but I have this, corners. If I continue, I have a lot of idle time until it's covered, and it's not nice. So I will undo this one and try to adjust the position for the repeater. Here I am. I move it just over here. Okay, that will do. Go back to the stroke and then increase it until it feels cool. Now it's working 100%. Let's see your animation now. You have done a very beautiful one. If you followed along, here you are. Not bad. Of course, you can tweak it to your taste and so on. Notice that my arrow did not work at 100%. That's what's happening over here. Notice that this bottom one is not as big as the upper one. So maybe I did not adjust 100% the points when I added them. One is on top, one is on bottom here. Cool. Don't worry about it. You can just come over here and start adjusting the first one. Okay, notice. So one is small, one is big. I'm going to take this node a bit down. Now it's okay. I hope so. Fine, it's no problem. You can just adjust it. Now you have the animation. Of course, what you want to do is to go back. Okay. If it's good for you, you just apply Luma inverted. And let's see our animation. If I play, here you are. Pretty cool. You can adjust the speed the way you would like. Fine. So now let's pre-compose. I will right click, pre-compose, and we say arrow matte. Click OK. So you have the pre-composition. And then let's come to the end. That's 2 seconds over here. Press N to make sure it's 2 seconds. And then trim comp to work area. You come back over here. You have your matte now. You can place it anywhere you like. Let's place it over here. Okay, and bring this one to make it 2 seconds. That's what we worked on. Let's put the work area. B to start it. N to finish it. We play and let's see the result. Cool. You have a very nice animation with the arrow. Of course, if you adjust the size of the arrow, if you adjust the number of repeats, you're going to have something very different. Well, this is simple and easy. In the next lecture, we are going to make it even better and see exactly how we can make it even more beautiful and more energetic. Thank you very much for listening. I'll see you in the next lecture. So guys, this was our achievement in the previous lecture. Humble achievement, but very important. I want to draw your attention to the use of the Luma inverted with the red color. If you come to arrow matte, you notice you have the red color here and the white. If you come back, you notice this is the effect of the white color in the Luma and this is the effect of the red. If you change the color red here, you can reduce or increase the reveal or the effect of the luma. For example, if you select your layer and go and make it 50% gray, here you are, 50% gray. You come back to the main, you notice now the influence is much more. The top layer has been less hidden and the bottom layer has been more revealed. Okay, you can change the way you want and play with the colors. Is pretty interesting. Cool. Now I'm gonna do a simple change that will really upgrade this transition. Select the shape layer here and go to the fill and the stroke and make them all 50%. Even the stroke, I'm gonna put it at 50%. Now I'm gonna duplicate this shape layer because I need a reveal with the white, and select the fill, make it 100% white, and the stroke, maybe you make it 100% white. Here you are. Or if you like, you can reduce the fill, for example, to a bit less if you like to, but I'm gonna keep it to white for now. Okay. Now it doesn't make sense because they are on top of each other. So let's open all our keyframes, press U, and let's reduce the time of the transition, both of them. Just take it this way a bit. Okay. Take the top layer and move it to 2 seconds. Let's see what's happening now. The first layer will come in and then the second layer, and they will all close at the same time. Notice what's happening here. Okay, and then they will come out very easily. Fine. Let's go see the effect here, and we play. We let it render. The first layer is coming in, then suddenly the second layer is gonna start. You notice it has started, and look at the effect here. Now you have a double arrow if you like, and they close. Pretty nice over here, and they go. Okay, let's play it. Here you are. With a simple change, you change the aspect or the look of the transition, and it's becoming much nicer. Now it's up to you how you play with it. I'll put it at 100% white. Maybe you change this one to a bit less and see the influence, how it will happen. This is the top layer. You go to arrow here and let's play it. Here you are. You notice you have even more. So it's up to you. I want to undo this one. I press Ctrl Z. I prefer it this way. It's much nicer. I can see the double lines. Thank you guys for listening. I hope this was useful. I hope you liked my tip, and I will see you in the next lecture. This is the transition that we want to create in this lecture. It's just composed of a circle or multiple circles, and we use a simple effect with a scaling. So let's start by creating the mat itself. Of course, you need a test composition. In this case, I used the two clips, 2 and 5, and I overlapped them with 2 seconds. Cool. So I will start by creating a simple shape layer, and it's going to be a circle. Come to your circle tool. You click, it's the ellipse tool in fact, and you just draw a circle. Make sure that you are not selecting any layer. You can press shift to have it as a circle, and then maybe you can make it as big as you want. It really doesn't matter for now. To center the circle in the middle of the composition or its own shape layer, it's very easy. You come to ellipse and you go to transform ellipse 1, and you just type 0, 0 on the position. This will reposition the circle to be in the center of its own layer, and of course the layer is in the middle of the composition. I will immediately pre-compose and call it Matte Circles, and I will open the new composition. Now let's set the composition to 2 seconds. The first thing we do is 2 seconds, press N, bring the work area, and simply right click and trim comp to work area. Here you are. Okay, to do the animation here, I will use a simple effect. This is a transition effect, and it is the radial wipe. I'm sure you're already familiar with it, but I will show you how to create nice transitions with this effect. If you click and drop it, that's cool. You have the effect open in the effect controls, and you have transition completion from 0% to 100%. It wipes out the circle, and of course from 100 to 0, then it will bring in the circle. Of course, you can use the wipe to be clockwise or counterclockwise, the way you would like. Okay, it really doesn't matter now. I'll keep it to clockwise. Now, this is wiping on the center of the composition, which is 960 by 540, which is also the center of the shape layer itself. We are cool here, and we can start animating. For example, I take the transition completion to 100 and keyframe it. Go after 1 second, 100, and put it back at 0%. Let's make sure we have a 100% just over here. Good. So we have a very simple animation that's taking 1 second. This is cool, but I want more here. I want the shape layer to grow in scale. You can animate the scale of the shape layer. That's okay. If you press S, you can animate it. But it's much better to animate from within the content, ellipse 1, the ellipse path 1, you have the size. I do prefer to animate this size in case I want to play with the stroke. Fine. So let's keyframe the size and put it at 0. And then after 1 second, so I go to 1 second just over here, I will increase the size to cover the whole composition, just like this. Okay, I press shift, it will go faster, just like this. Okay, simple. Fine. So now I have a very simple animation, which is quite cool, by the way. If you come back to circles, you have already the matte here, and you can Luma invert this one, and the timing is okay. So you press spacebar, it's doing very well. Let's put it on top. Let's go to the endpoint of this layer. And then we snap it over here. Here you are. We need to snap it a bit better. Cool. If you notice now, it's gonna uncover the bottom layer. Here you are. Very nice. Let's go back to the matte and create something even better. I have here one shape layer. How about if I create several of them? Let's duplicate this shape layer. I press Ctrl D or Command D on the Mac, like 4 times will do. But let's select all of them. Press U to see the keyframes. That's pretty interesting now. Now I'd like to shift them a bit, just 5 frames, for example. Here you are, something like this, and then 5 frames from here and 5 frames from here. Cool. Let's look at our animation now. You have the first one. Of course, they are all the same color. And this is what I'm going to do. To create the matte, I need the last layer to be white. This is the one that's going to appear on top of everything. But then I can take the bottom one, change the fill, for example, to black. Let's give it, for example, 20%. Cool. Take the other one, change the black to 30% or 40%, whatever you like. Let's put it at 30. And the last one, let's change the black. We put 30, so we take maybe here 40%. Here you are, you have a very nice reveal, and the last layer is white and it works with the Luma matte. Fine. So let's select all of them. Here you are. And press F9 to easy ease. Of course, you can come to the graph editor here and try to play as much as you want. I will leave it for now because it's going to be quite cool. Notice. Okay, let it render. Here you are. Fine. Let's go back to circles and see exactly what we got. Pretty nice. Notice it's very refined animation. Notice how the colors are working here at 10%, 20%, and so on, until you get the full one. Now you can go back here and decide, okay, I don't want this to be 10%. You can increase, for example, to I don't know, 40%, 30% from here. And this one, let's increase it to another 20, that's 50%. And the last one, let's make it, for example, 60% of black. Okay? You could have used another color, of course, that would be fine also. Then let's select all the last keyframes and then click and drag to put them at the end at 2 seconds. Here you are. But to be precise, you can go to 2 seconds and make sure these keyframes are snapping to 2 seconds. Fine. Let's play our animation now and see if it's cool. Not bad. The timing seems good. The circles are opening nicely. The colors are adequate. Very fine. Let's go back to the main composition circles and play to see exactly what's happening. It's pretty beautiful and pretty nice. Notice by pushing the keyframes, we made it, more artistic, and it's taking its time to do a simple transition. Of course, guys, you can come to the matte, start applying certain effects if you like on the shape layers, or adjusting the time or changing the graph, trying to make it a bit speedier or settling very nicely at the end. But I like it the way it is now, and I hope you will come to After Effects and recreate this animation to train yourself and start creating your own transition matte. Thank you very much. I will see you in the next lecture. In this lecture, guys, I want to show you the effect of a stroke on the circles. I encourage you to put a stroke and start playing with it. and see exactly how you want your transition. Let's go to matte circle and select all the shape layer. Put the color to white at 100% for all of them and give it, for example, 10. Okay, so you notice here it is, you have 10. Okay, 10 might be too much, but just to show you the example, if I go back here, you notice the effect of the stroke. Now you have definite circles that you can see, and since the color is plain white, you have a full reveal for the luma inverted of the bottom layer. You can come over and start playing with the color. Now what's interesting also, if you take the last layer, it doesn't make sense here. So how about just for the last layer, you give it a black color. Here you are. Let's go back and see where is it. It's over here. Now with the black color, you notice there is zero reveal of the bottom layer, and you have a different kind of transition, a bit enigmatic or the way you would like. Of course, you can come and play and add some effects here. In the next lectures, I will show you how to add effects in a very simple way using the adjustment layers. Thank you very much for listening. I'll see you in the next lecture. In this lecture, guys, we are going to create this transition. We're still going to use the radial wipe, and we are going to change its properties. Let's start by creating our mat. Of course, I created a new composition for testing. Call it rectangles with 2 video layers here overlapped with 2 seconds. Now I will create a rectangle on top of everything. Make sure that you did not select anything and double click to create a rectangle as big as the composition. Cool. Immediately I will pre-compose here. It became very easy for you, and I will call it rectangles mat. And I will click OK. Fine. So the effect I want to use here is gonna be the radial wipe. First, let's adjust the composition. Let's come to 2 seconds here. Press N to bring the work area and to the timeline indicator. Right click and trim comp to work area, and here you are, you have 2 seconds. For the first shape layer, I'm gonna change the color to white just for now, and then apply the radial wipe. Now we're gonna use a simple trick in the way radial wipe here. Remember, we had the wipe here. It could be clockwise, counterclockwise, or both. Let's use both. That's one. If you scrub through now, you notice that it's wiping clockwise and anti-clockwise. But also you have the wipe center. It is now in the middle of the layer. How about if we put it on the rightmost here in the middle? So it will be just moving it to 1920 because of the size of the composition. And now it's wiping somewhere, it comes from 0% and wipes till the end. Okay, that's cool, but not really very cool. It looks awkward. We can change the start angle to 90 degrees. That's what's happening. Now, if you scrub through, you will notice that it's gonna go from 50%, that's where it starts, and it's gonna take both thighs and put them in. So let's start creating our animation. We keyframe at 100%. We want to make a reveal from the middle to the right side. And then after 1 second, let's go to 1 second, here it is. We put it back to 50%. 50% is enough. We don't waste our time. So here you are. It comes from inside and it wipes. So actually, you already have a nice mat. If you want to use it, come to rectangle. Let's position it over here. We go to the in point of this layer and snap this one just over here. Okay. And if you play now, very nice, you apply the luma inverted for an in transition and you have something pretty beautiful. Of course, you can come back to rectangle mat and open the keyframes and easy ease them, and you can go to the graph you would like, make them a bit nicer, something like this if you want to, or play with it the way you would like. Here it is, and it slams very nicely. Let's make it even more interesting by adding more shape layers. If I take this shape layer and duplicate it using Ctrl D or Command D on the Mac, let's say 4 times, and then I open all the keyframes, start shifting them by 5 frames. 5 frames will do. Here you are. I'm not very precise, but you can be very, very precise if you like. Let's see the animation now. The first one will come and second one. They are all the same colors. Let's change the color. We take the first one, and of course, I want to change the black to 60%. Feel free to adjust it the way you would like, and depending on the luma you want to use, it will also be very good. I will take the other one and make it 40%, and this one I will make it 20%. Of course, you could have gone the other way around. That will be 20 and this one will be 60%. If I play now, I have a very nice animation. Notice how it's going at the end here. It's pretty cool. They're coming one after the other. That's one way to do it. Okay, let's see the effect, and we play over here. Very nice. You notice it's like uncovering very nicely. And of course, if you play with the colors, you have a different effect here. But now another way to do it is to take these keyframes, of course, and take them to the end. Let's snap them at 2 seconds. Here you are. We are sure they are at 2 seconds. Let's go to 2 seconds. And here you are. It's well snapped. And they're coming one after the other. That's one way to do it. Or you can take these keyframes, the last 3 for example, start bringing them also to the end at 2 seconds. Here you are. It will give you a different effect here. If you play now, they're gonna close all at the same time. Well, it depends on what you like to do. I will undo this. I prefer the way we have done it before. Something like this, coming up very nicely. If you go to rectangle now, here is your transition, and it's quite cool. Now, in the next lecture, we are going to take the same matte, the same transition that we have used, and add some other effect to it, and you will notice it's going to become a bit more, I would say, original. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next lecture. This is the transition that we are going to create in this lecture. It's based on the transition we created in the previous lecture, also using radial wipe, and you will learn a couple of tricks here. Now to start, let's select rectangles and its matte and press Ctrl D, so we have both of them here. Double click on rectangle 2 and then come to the name here, says close other comps. Cool. In rectangle 2, I don't want to have a rectangle matte. I want to have a rectangle matte 2. So I will select both of them like you see. They are highlighted. Press the Alt or the Option key on the Mac. Click and drag and drop it. So everything is the same except we have rectangle matte 2. Okay. And we have rectangle 2. I would double click on rectangle matte 2 and we have already here the animation opening. Fine. So I will select all the layers, right click and pre-compose, and let's call them, for example, rectangles both sides. So the first one, maybe we change the name from rectangles matte to rectangles right matte. Okay, no problem. Then I'm coming back to rectangle matte 2. I have the simple animation that's still there. I will take a rectangle both sides and drop another copy over here. So notice like nothing is happening. So now we have just 2 of them on top of each other. That's very fine. What I will do is very simple. Just a small tip if you like. I will just open the rotation and rotate the whole composition 180 degrees. Here you are. So now if you play, all you have is both of them coming and it doesn't look good at all. It's just opening on the right side for the top one. To solve this problem or to add more things here, we're going to play with the mode. If you change the mode, for example, to screen, now you have something quite logical that's happening here. Pretty nice, by the way. Here you are. Okay, see it? Pretty nice. Let's go and see it on the main composition. It should be rectangle 2. That's it. And we play. You have something pretty beautiful and quite, I would say refined here. You can see the bottom video coming in and then it opens at 100%. Now, I have used screen, but you can come over and say decide, okay, I want to use, for example, multiply. Let's look at the animation here if it makes sense. Yes, not bad. Actually, it's pretty cool. Let's go try it on the other side. Here you are. If you play, it's opening and then the last one opens like in a diamond. So actually this is all about the radial wipe and how to create this kind of transitions. Of course you can come and play a lot, change the mode the way you would like, change the position, for example make 4 of them each at a certain angle, 90 degrees, 180 degrees and 270, and you will have 4 of them opening with some amalgam of kaleidoscope kind of transition. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next lecture. Let's work on this linear transition. This is going to be part 1. In the next lecture, I'll show you part 2, and it's going to be more beautiful. Okay guys, so let's start. First of all, I did my linear transition part 1 test composition, and we start working. We want to create our mat, of course. Let's go to the rectangle tool, and of course you deselect everything and double click to create a full rectangle on the composition. Let's remove the fill and make it white so we can do it very well. And then I'm gonna chop it off at 2 seconds. We are at 2 seconds. Then I will use Alt or Option on the Mac and the right square bracket. Here you are. So I chopped it off. It's now 2 seconds. I will right click and say pre-compose. And here you see it says adjust composition duration to the time span of the selected layer. 2 seconds here. Click and you have a 2 seconds composition. That's another way, some shortcuts. To create our linear transition, I'm going to use a preset. Of course, I will go to the effect and preset. You have animation preset. In transition wipes, you have here a linear wipe. Before you apply it to the timeline, make sure that your timeline indicator is at 00, because this preset will add some keyframes. Here you are. If I press U to see the keyframes, there is one at 1 second and one at 0 seconds. If you look at the animation, it's very simple. Just, wiping from the left to the right. Cool. Let's select both layers, press F9, go to the graph editor and make it a bit more, nicer in terms of speed, so it slams down very smoothly. Actually, we forgot to rename this composition. Let's rename it, and let's call it linear mat. Click OK. It's 2 seconds and 1 frame if you notice, but it's okay. Fine. Let's go back to our main composition here, and if you post it just in the right place and apply the Luma inverted, you notice you have already a nice transition, somehow nice. Okay, this is a very usual transition everywhere, you can see it. Let's go back to the linear mat. We're gonna do almost the same process here. Of course, we duplicate 3-4 times, as many as you want. Now you want to change the colors. So the first one is gonna be white, 100%. Second one, let's make it 80% white. You notice the 80% here white just makes it a bit darker. Okay, so nearer you get to the plain white, more you have percentage of black. I'll check the other one and make it 60%, and the last one, let's make it 40%. Okay, you can add another one and make it 20% or so. So now we need to time them. Select all of them, press U, and you have all the keyframes. And of course, you can time them the way you want. Now I'll take 5 frames. You can do more or less, the way you would like, guys. It's your taste. So it's working very fine. Let's come to 2 seconds. Select all the keyframes, shift, and we drag them to this side. Let's look at our animation, and it's pretty cool. Here you are. Now, if you play here, it's gonna be pretty nice, but let's make it a bit nicer, guys. What do you think? Let's go to the linear mat here. We have very many layers here, and I want to apply an effect to all the layers here. Well, this is gonna be harsh because I will have to apply the effect on each one of them. Instead, I will use an adjustment layer. This, you right click in your composition, you go to new, and you say adjustment layer. Well, adjustment layer is really, you can't see anything on it, but any effect that you apply on the adjustment layer will also be applied to all the layer beneath the adjustment layer. So it's pretty practical. One effect on the adjustment layer on top, all the layers below will have the same effect. For this, let's apply, for example, a blur. Here are the blurs. I'm gonna take the fast box blur, here it is, and apply it to the adjustment layer. Now notice what's happening. If I increase the blur radius, all of them are getting blurred, all the layers beneath. You notice? Okay, then there is this black all around here. Sometimes it's very useful, sometimes it's very annoying, like now. So I'm gonna say repeat edge pixel, check it. So the edges are not blurred, only whatever you can see from the borders of the rectangles. Cool. So if you play your animation here, pretty nice. Let's go back and see the effect of the blur now. It's pretty cool and actually very nice. Notice how smooth is this transition. It's very beautiful. You can even, use it on TV on very, I would say, official programs if you like. So this is about the linear wipe, and there are so many tricks you can play here, and of course you can add to it and change it and add more layers, do more artistic than I'm showing you now. I hope so, at least. In the next lecture, guys, we are going to use this same linear matte transition, and I will show you something different. I will see you in the next lecture. So based on the transition we created in the previous lecture, we are going to create this transition that's very smooth, somehow hypnotic, in two parts. I will show you the two parts, and you can decide which one you want to use or which one you want to add more effect even. So let's start here. First of all, I will select linear matte and linear transition part 1, press Ctrl D or Command D on the Mac, and then they are linear matte 2 and linear transition 2. I will double click on them and they will open both here. I will come and close the other two. Here you are. In the linear transition part 2, I will select linear matte. I wanted to put linear matte 2. So I'll press Alt or Option on the Mac, click and drag to do a full replacement. Fine. Let's open linear matte 2. We have the same absolutely. That's pretty cool. First thing I'm going to do is to select all of them, right click and pre-compose. Here we're going to call it, for example, linear matte animation. And I will click OK. Now, I have the linear matte here, animation, a single composition. Of course, maybe you guessed it, I will duplicate it, but then they are on top of each other, so I will lose rotation. We already done this, 180 degrees. And if you play it, you know they are on top of each other, nothing is happening. I will change the mode here. I will go to multiply. Feel free to go to the other, like screen, like add, lighten, any one of them. Play with them, they are very interesting. For the course, I will use multiply. If I play the animation now, pretty cool. Let's go to the main linear transition part 2. If you play, you have something pretty cool. And you already have a transition that is very different, but yet you have done very little work. Let's continue if you like. I will take back linear matte 2 and take this last one and duplicate it also twice. Of course, now they are all on top of each other. It doesn't make sense, you know that. I will take the linear matte 2, open the rotation, and rotate it 90 degrees. And the last one, rotated minus 90. So actually, I have both of them here. And if you play your animation, you have something pretty funny here with lines and so on. It's all mess. Fine. To adjust this, you can use also the mode, which is pretty interesting, and put the mode to multiply for the 3 top layers. Notice now how it's going. It's very interesting and pretty not nice because we have these sharp lines here. Fine, let's take the last two, press S, this is for scale, and let's scale both of them. Of course, I remove the chain link on the y-axis. Here you are. Fine. Now, if you play your animation, you truly have something very nice. Let's go to the main one, see exactly what we have here. That is pretty cool. So with a bit of imagination, a bit of rotation, duplication, you created a new transition out of almost the same work you have done previously. Of course, guys, please feel free here to select these layers, for example, and go and make them all screen. Okay, and you have a different animation now. It's your choice the way you'll do it. It's a bit faint, this one with the screen. Notice, not so much. Cool, I will undo the screen. You notice, guys, maybe here the blur is too much. If you reduce it, you might have even a better transition. Let's try it. Let's go to linear matte 2, then linear matte animation, go to effects control, and let's set the blur at 15 only. Here you are. Now you have sharper lines. But I think it will be much more beautiful if you come back to the main composition. Here you are. It is, I think, better. It's up to you now. It's your choice. You can see the rectangles opening, some kind of lines and blurs. It's like fireworks with the blur. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope this was very constructive for you and you start creating your own transitions using this system. I'll see you in the next lecture. Hi guys, and in this lecture, you are going to create this transition. It's about also stimulating your imagination, giving you some tips for motion graphics, but also what I would love to see is your own transitions. So you take from the course and you build on it and create even better. Let's start with this transition. Of course, you start by creating the mat itself. So I will come to the rectangle tool. Here you are. Zoom a bit inside and then create a simple line. Let's do the line just like this, okay? And I put the anchor point in the middle just for the sake of putting it. It's Control Alt Home or Command Option Home on the Mac. You can come and align it if you like, it's no big deal. Now, if you come to rectangle 1 here, inside transform rectangle 1, you have an option for skew. If you skew, you just make it an oblique rectangle, okay? As simple as this. Let's make it, for example, 20. I like 20, yeah. With the selection tool, let's put it outside the whole layer. So I deselected, then selected the whole layer and just put it outside over here. Fine. You might have noticed that I will be using the repeater. First of all, let's create our composition. So I'll come to 2 seconds here. Trim the layer, that is Alt or Option on the Mac, and the right square bracket. Then right click and say pre-compose, and of course adjust composition duration. Then it will make it totally 2 seconds, which is pretty cool. From here I will come to content and add a repeater, as you might know, and I want something very simple this time. I want to add the number of copies to cover everything. Here you are. Actually, I like it very much with these lines, but you can adjust the rectangle size here. Here you are, the rectangle path size. We unchain and then you make it thinner if you like to. So you have black lines, something like this. That's one way to do it. Or simply come and adjust the position and make it a bit bigger. Here you are. So they're going a bit bigger. Something like this, I think, for this one will do quite well. Fine. So let's animate the number of copies here. After 1 second, which is in the middle, I will keyframe the number of copies. Come back to the beginning. And of course, I noticed that 27 is a too high number. I'll put it to 0. So I have this simple animation, but notice like it's end here. So I'm going to go to the end, take down the number of copies. Okay, so maybe 17 will do, or 18. Okay, 18 has done well. So I have this very simple animation. Now the first thing I want to do is to adjust the fill, right? So we take the fill opacity to 80% using the fill color. Let's go back to the other side, adjust them on top of each other, and of course you apply Luma inverted matte, which already done from the previous lectures. And then let's remove the eyeball and then you play. Here you are. Not bad. You notice it's pretty strong, but nevertheless I'm gonna keep it like this, show you something else. Come back to the beginning here and you have the start opacity. I'm gonna put it to 0. So notice exactly what's happening when it's uncovering, right? It's playing with the opacity. The last one we can see it pretty clearly. The first one are very dimmed. If you come back, here you are, you notice here it's almost dims. You cannot see the back videos, you can see only the top video. Let's go back here and complete the reveal, right guys? So I select shape layer and simply I'm gonna duplicate it. So now I have one on top of the other. And the top shape layer here, I'm gonna make it 100% white. So I'll go to fill and make it white at 100%. Here it is. Now, if you play, you notice they're gonna come on top of each other, but I still have the opacity here. I will remove the opacity from the repeater. I'll just put it back to 100%. Transform repeater, opacity 100%. What I will do, let's select all the layers, that's both of them, press U, and then you can start moving them. I want to move the keyframes. I don't want to move the layers. And let's see what will happen if I do something like this, for example. If you play now, it's not very nice because one comes and the other one will follow. Of course, the other ones still have the separation line here. If you notice, we don't want that. So let's go to the rectangle one, and the safest way is to increase the size of the rectangle. So I will uncheck it and make it bigger. Here you are. Okay, I think this is cool. We go to the end and we see we need just a bit more. Maybe 145 will do good. Cool. And then at the end, it will be a full reveal. Let's go see it from the other side and notice, do we like this kind of animation? One comes in, here you are, and the other one will follow. Well, that's not bad. Now, how to play with this animation is very easy. Let's select all layers again, press U, and then if you select the number of copies here and just bring them on this side. Okay, that's what's happening here. Now, one is starting the repeat and the other one will follow the repeat, the top layer, before this one ends, and it's quite cool. So actually you can time it the way you want. If you take it very near, for example to 5 frames, notice you only have 4 bars. It's just a swipe if you like, and you can make it longer. Here you are, so you have more of these bars coming in, or even, you know, just up to here you have even more bars. Now this seems quite cool at 10 frames. Let's select the copies again and go to 10 frames. Here you are. I find this is quite cool. Of course, your taste is the most important, and how you alter this transition, how you make it better, is very important. I'll go back to the beginning. Let's play it again and see what happens. Not bad at all. It's a very nice reveal. And of course, you can tweak it. You can add some effects like the blurs we have seen and stories like this to end up with the animation or the transition that you want and make it original according to your taste. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next lecture with another math. In this lecture, guys, you are going to create this transition with random circles and the radial shadow and some blurs. It's gonna be very interesting, and I will show you several tricks and tips. I'm saying that every lecture, right, guys? But actually, I would like you to take the tricks and the tips I'm showing you and add on them. You know, use all these effects. So let's start by creating our mat. Now, previously we created a first mat and I called it mat 1, oblique rectangles. So I'm gonna be lazy and just duplicate that. Select it from here and duplicate it. Press enter and rename it mat 2, circles with a radial shadow. Here you are. Now I need to place it on my test video. So I will select both of them. You notice I will select the layer I want to replace and the layer I want to replace with. Press Alt or Option on the Mac, click and drag, and just drop them. Nothing has changed except the compositions are now different. Double click on the composition and just delete these layers. I'm quite cool with 2 seconds. Saved myself a lots of work. Cool. So let's start here creating some circles. I will select the ellipse tool, click, and I will create, let's say, the final circles. I'll press Ctrl and Shift to make a circle. So I'm creating the last ones where they're gonna do a full reveal for the underlying video. To deselect here, of course, I don't want to create one shape layer, I want to create several. I will press F2, create another one, click, and press Ctrl and Shift and make it bigger. Here you are, that's cool like this. Okay, then another one over here. Let's say so, Control Shift, and we make it as big as you like. Another one, of course, you can be very meticulous creating them the way you would like. Here you are. And then I press F2 again, and let's create one, the small one just here. Okay, not bad. Of course, I want to select all of them now and put the anchor point in the middle. I will use the shortcut to do them all at once. Control Alt Home or Command Option Home on the Mac. I'm sure you know. Fine. So what kind of animation are we gonna do here? Let's go to 1 second, for example, and open the scale and scale all the layers at 100%. That's one way. Then come back to the beginning and put the scale at 0. So actually you have a slow animation even, and just opening the circle. That's pretty cool, but let's add more effect now. We can do it only at 1 second. I will add an adjustment layer. I will right click, say new, and add an adjustment layer. So all the effects I want to have on all the layers beneath the adjustment layer, I will put them on the adjustment layer and they will act on all the layers beneath. So I will come to Effects and Preset and look for Shadow. You can see that you have a radial shadow. I'll click on it and put it on the adjustment layer. Let's come in the middle, and we notice we can see our shadows because their color is black. So I will click on the color black and reduce it, and now you can see the shadows, for example, something like this. Fine. Now we need to tweak the shadows, of course. So the opacity is fine, 50%. The projection distance, let's make it shorter over here. And you notice you have the softness. You can make them softer, a bit softer. Okay, for the shadow. You can have shadow only, which doesn't make sense. And of course you can center the light. Notice where the light, if you click on the light here, this is the center of the light, and move it around, these shadows are gonna move with the light. So you can think about the light coming from over here, hitting everything else, and you know, it's like somehow 3D. So the first one here, according to the light, the shadow is just nearby. This one is very far, and let's put them, for example, over here. Yep, that's cool. Cool. Now I'm greedy. I want to add more. So I will add another radial shadow. Here you are. Now, notice here how it's going to be very beautiful. If I change the color here, make it brighter. And let's bring the light source just over here, for example, to make a difference. Okay, I'm going to show you. Let's put it over here. Now, that's what's happening here. Let's make this one a bit darker. Now, look what's happening here. You have the original circle, that's one. Then you have its shadow. So now you have two circles. You notice the shadow over here, or you can see it over here. And then you added another radial shadow. The second radial shadow will give you, first, a shadow for the original one. So now you have three circles somehow. And then it gives you a shadow for the first shadow. So you have four circles around here. You can adjust the points to make it like quite relevant for you, you know, how you want it to work. And let's go to the second shadow here. It's over here. Let's make it, bring it nearer. Something like this so we can see all of them. You see here you have a very nice effect. Now, if you run the animation, you notice you have so many circles appearing, and it's quite beautiful. Fine, let's go see it on top of our test video. How is it performing here? Is it nice enough? Here you are. They're opening up, and you notice the shadows, what they are doing here. Okay, pretty cool. You have several effects here, and some of them are not very visible according to the colors we have put. So we can come back and change the colors if you like to. Okay, let's come over here and decide, okay, some of the colors should be stronger. Let's increase the opacity, for example, or even decrease it, okay, the way you would like. And here we also increase a bit the opacity. That's very fine. Go back here. I guess we have a lot of shadows that are pretty cool. Fine, but you see, this original one really has a very hard edge here. Let's go put some effect, you know, like a blur. How about that, guys? Let's go to the blurs and sharpen. And I would like to try the CC vector blur. Let's take it and drag it, put it on the bottom. You can put it on top the way you like. And then you increase the amount. Notice it has the effect on all the shapes here, on the original shape and on the shadows. And here, look what's happening. It's quite nice. If you scrub through here, let's see what's happening. You know, they're coming all together, and you have quite some effects coming up. Let's go see it on the real video. You can see the effect is pretty nice, and we used vector blur, and yet we did not blur the original one like we wanted, but it's really cool over here. Just 1 second. Let's play it in real time now. You have a very nice animation, guys, and you have a very nice transition. You have a special transition. You could go back to the radial and say, okay, I will put fast box blur or Gaussian blur or another radial. I will go for the fast box. I can put it anywhere. It will work fine, and increase it a bit only to make it to unsharp everything. I want to put it on top of everything. I think I will do that. Here you are. And I think it's unsharpening everything. It's gonna take time to render. This is pretty cool. Let's go back to the test video and see exactly how is our animation. I'll press play, and here you are. It's a very cool one and quite mystic, I would say. It's mysterious. But you have also to come in and try to change few things. I'll give you the principle of the radial shadow and how you can execute, you know, several circles, in fact a big number of circles, without having to draw each one of them using the radial shadow. I hope you like this transition, and I hope I give you a lot of ideas. That's the main thing, how to use the radius shadow, the vector, and the other blurs. Thank you for listening. I will see you in the next lecture. Hi guys, in this lecture we are going to create this simple transition. It's simple, but you can add to the motion graphics or replicate the motion graphics to get even more effects. So let's start here. We want to create our mat. What I've done is to take the previous mat, duplicate it, drop it over here, and of course it's now empty and we can start with our graphic. To create the motion that you have seen, we are going to use the rectangle tool. I will double click on it. And of course, I don't want any stroke, and I want the fill to be 100% white. If you look at the fill here, I'm going to make it 100% white for the shape layer. Now I want to create a rotation on the bottom left corner over here. So I'll select the layer and go to the pan behind tool or the anchor point tool. Click on it and just bring it to the corner. When it is very near, I press Ctrl, it will snap here. Now let's see what's happening here. If I open rotation, it will rotate very fine on the corner, but I can see the borders of the rectangle. I don't want that. So I'm going to increase the size of the rectangle. Using the selection tool, you can just click on the right side and make it bigger. Now you don't see the side coming in, and if you do, you can make it even bigger, just like this. So let's create the animation now. At 1 second, for example, we are going to keyframe the rotation at 0, 0. We come back in the beginning and we want to put it just over here. So it's going to be minus 90. Here you are. Of course, I will select the keyframes, press F9, go to the graph. I'm doing it now before replication. It's easier a bit. And just do it like this. Notice, do I like it? Fine. Cool. Let's go now and start duplicating this layer. I will duplicate it, for example, 4 times. So it will be 5 of them. Control D 5 times or 4 times. You have 5 of them. Of course, now you want to time them. You don't want them all at the same time. Before that, let's play on the opacity. If select all the layers, press T for opacity. You know very well we are going to cover with the first layer here. Let's start by the bottom here. We make the first layer, for example, 20%. We go up, we make it 25% or 30%, anything you want. And let's say this one, 35%, and then 40% or 45%. Then we want to time them now. I will just play on the 5 frames, click and drag the layers. Here you are. Very simple, very easy. We've done already something like this. And the last one will come over here. If you play the animation now, it's all ready for you. They're slamming down very nicely, the 4 of them. Let's go to the main composition now and see the effect here. I press spacebar to play. Here you are. The reveal is very smooth and very delicate, if you want to say so. So it's pretty nice. You can add more now. Now, this is one transition that you can already use, but I want to add more to show you how you can play with it. I will come to the mat here. And simply I will select all the layers, right click and go to pre-compose and call it mat 4 side 1. I will click OK. So you have now one composition here. I will just duplicate it. Look how simple it's going to be. I mean, these tips are very nice, but now they are on top of each other. Okay, cool. So we'll take one of them. Let's take the bottom one, open the scale, remove the chain link and write minus 100. Okay, so you have it now on this corner. So now if you notice, the bottom one is on the right corner. We changed the scale minus 100% is the way to flip it. And the top one, you notice on the left corner. Let's go to our test video and decide, okay, is that cool enough for us? So we press spacebar to play. Here you are. That's pretty cool. It's a nice one. Of course, you can come and change the opacity. Now, if you want to add more, for example, you can add a third one. Open the scale and say, okay, make it minus 100 over here, and it will drop on this corner. If you notice, I'm gonna solo it, so it's now on this corner. And another one, Control D, and we open the scale and we say minus 100 on both sides, so it's on this corner. If I solo it again, you notice it's on this corner. Now without the solo, here you are. If you play now, you have a different animation and you have a different reveal, which is pretty cool. So it depends on you. You notice when we put them all, the intensity of the opacity is going up, in fact, and then here you are, it's revealing pretty fast, but it's still quite cool and it's still quite efficient. So now you've seen this very simple example of reveal using some motion graphics. I'll see you in the next lecture. In this lecture, guys, I will show you how to create this horizontal bar transition and a vertical bar transition, and also another one with some squares opening up. It's very interesting, and I'm sure you have seen this very many times. You are not going to create a complicated motion graphics. In fact, you are going to use a simple effect. And here I did not apply any blur effects and so on. They are all sharp. So let's dive in. The first thing, we need to create our matte, and I already did that. I created the composition matte for Gridler, and we are going to create our matte over here. Let's double click on the rectangle to create a rectangle that is the size of the composition. Now you go to your effects and preset, and there is an effect called Gridler. You have here the CC Gridler. You click and drag and drop it on the rectangle. Now here you have horizontal scale and vertical scale and the tile size. Well, actually this effect is supposed to give you some kind of tiling. For example, if you go to the horizontal and put it at 50, you notice now it has tiled horizontally and you have just vertical bars. If you take, for example, now the vertical and make it 50 also, now it has tiled and you have horizontal bars. If you change the value of the horizontal and the vertical, you have actually now squares, because horizontal scale is equal to vertical squares, and you can animate these ones. Let's see how we're going to animate them. Let's go to 1 second here. Put the horizontal scale to 100. Go to vertical scale and also make it to 100. Here you are. Notice I did not change the tile size. I'll show you later how. And then keyframe only the horizontal. Let's go to the beginning and take the horizontal to 0. If you play your animation now, you have some kind of tiling opening. Now, you don't have control. They are opening from the middle of the tile. You don't have control over that. You cannot make them open from any side, just in the middle of the tile. So you have a very simple animation. To add or reduce the number of tiles, you come to tile size. For example, if you make it 50, of course, the tile size is bigger now and you have fewer bars. But this animation is still pretty cool, mainly if you speed it. Let's go see its effect on the video itself. Come over here and press spacebar to play. You have a very nice transition here that's opening slowly. Of course, we can work on that. Now, if this number of tiles is not good for you, cool. Let's go back to the Gridler and then add, for example, here, make it, I don't know, 30, for example. And you notice what we have here. Very nice. You come back and you can play it over here. See exactly the effect that you want. So this is the animation you're getting with smaller tiles. So you have more bars. Let's go back here, and instead of animating the horizontal, let's animate the vertical. So I will remove the keyframes on the horizontal. I will just click here. The keyframes have disappeared. Come to 0 here. Set it at 100. And vertical scale, set it to 0. And keyframe the vertical scale. Come after 1 second and make it 100. Cool. So now you have just vertical bars coming up. Cool. This is based on 30. If you now make it smaller, if you like, you will have more or less, whatever you like. You can add the values, make them bigger. I will take, for example, in this example here, 15. Okay, so I have very many of them. Let's go back to the video itself. And if you play it, you have a very nice animation. So now we did vertical and we did horizontal. Let's go back and now play with both of them. For example, at 0 here, I'm going to put both of them at 0. Open the keyframes. You also keyframe the horizontal scale. Go to the next keyframe and make it 100. Okay. Now notice it's a very nice animation and a very simple animation, by the way. Cool. Let's go to the test video and play to see exactly what you are going to get. Pretty cool, right, guys? You notice? Pretty nice. Of course, you can come and add the blur effects to get them a bit blurred or something like this. Let's go back to the matte, open our keyframes, so we need U, and then we select them both, press F9, then go to the graph editor and just make both X and Y. We just make them just like this, and see our animation from here, how smooth it can be. Pretty cool. Let's go back to the test video, and we press spacebar to play. Pretty nice. Right, guys? So using a simple effect, you have created a very powerful transition, and these transitions are pretty nice. Now, in the next lecture, we'll see a different form of transitions. Hi guys, let's create this transition together. It's a simple transition where you use the effect linear wipe, and also I will show you a tip on how to make a very simple reveal using a solid layer or a shape layer if you like. So let's dive in. So I created here a composition matte 5 sliding in and out. It's over here in our test video, and let's start creating our animation over here. I'm gonna use a shape layer, double click to create the shape layer. We have a certain fill, that's fine for now. Let's go to FX and presets and look for linear. So you have the linear wipe here, and it's very practical to use it for transition. After all, it's under the group of transitions. I will take it and drop it on the layer itself. Now notice the linear wipe is very easy, it just wipes. Cool, but let's be a bit more creative. First of all, let's give it an angle of 135. So you notice now the wipe is gonna come from a certain way. Let's start our animation here. I will go to 0 and keyframe the transition completion at 100%. Come, for example, after 20 frames, that's enough, and take it down to 50% only. Okay, 50%, just like here. Fine. So this is our animation. It's very simple. Cool. Let's duplicate this layer. So I'll select it, Ctrl D to duplicate it, and now we have two layers that we want to change the color. Let's make the second layer a bit darker, for example. Okay. Now, if you select your keyframes, you press U, you play them, they are on top of each other. Of course, you want to shift the top layer a bit further, and I will play. Cool, not bad. They are very symmetrical and they're coming at equal distance. Let's select all the keyframes, press F9 to put an easy ease. Go back to the graph here. Let's go now to the speed graph. Okay, I was in the other graph, the value graph, and let's do them just like this. So let's look at our animation, and they settle. Now what I like doing here, I don't want them to have the same timing between the entrance, that's 5 frames difference, and the exit, also 5 frames. What I like to do is to bring this last keyframe a bit less. Now what happens is, it's like the bottom layer is following the top layer to close. Notice the distance is not always parallel. Gives you a nice animation up to here. So this is our animation. It's 2 seconds for now. The next thing I'm gonna do is to select these two layers and right click and pre-compose them. Here I'm gonna call them matte 5 single dash single. Press enter. Let's go back to the main composition. We have one pre-comp over here. Take this pre-comp and just duplicate it. Ctrl D, then open the rotation and rotate it 180 degrees. Okay, so now we have a very simple animation. They come in and they stay there. So how are we gonna create the reveal? We know very well at maybe 25 here, they're closing 100%. We want to start the reveal just over here. To do that, I will use a different technique here. I will select everything, double click to create a shape layer and give it the color completely white. This will be the reveal layer. Then I'm gonna open the rotation and simply give it -135, just like the linear wipe. Now notice it has become oblique. Come to the scale, okay, press S to get the scale, unlink and make it wider, just wider to cover everything. Cool. At this stage here, I'm gonna keyframe the scale and put the Y at 0. Notice what's happening, it has disappeared. Go down the timeline, 10, 15 frames, I'm going 20 frames, and put it back at 100%. I need a bit more, so I will increase it to cover everything. Here you are. There is no waste of time or anything with unnecessary scales. I press the space bar, they cover, and the white opens. So it's gonna be a very nice mat. Let's go to the test video here. I press the space bar to play it. Here you are. It's very nice. Now I used different colors here. You can come and play with the colors the way you want here. Make them darker, I don't know what, lighter, depending on what you want to do. And you have a very nice animation. Like all other transitions, you can add a blur if you don't want this straight lines. Or in fact, if you come to the matte itself and select one layer, you have here a feathering that you can add. Okay, so you have a feathering here. You could add this feathering if you like to. I don't like it. I like it here in this case to be very sharp. That is the transition. It's very simple, very easy, and you can start manipulating now. I used 135-degree angle. You can change that. You can make it 120. You can make it 45 and see exactly how it works for you. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next lecture with a new mat. Let's create this speed rings transition. The aim of this transition is to draw attention that a new video is coming in, and you're showing like glimpse of the new video until it opens completely. Just a couple of seconds, but it creates some anticipation. So let's start creating this transition. I've of course created a mat here, mat 6, and put it on our test video so we can start working on it. Let's double click. You notice it's empty. Now, the first thing we want to create is a circle. I've just click on the circle, come and draw a circle. Press shift to have a real circle because I had an ellipse. Now, if I want to center it, that's very easy. I will come into ellipse 1 inside contents, go to transform ellipse 1, and within the position here, I put it 0, 0. Is about the shape relative to the layer. Now they are centered 100%. Starting from here, I don't want any fill, so I will remove the fill, and I want a stroke, for example, 80, 90, whatever you like. I will take it, 90 will do, maybe. Then let's change the color a bit. You can make it a bit darker, the way you would like. That's cool. And let's start animating it. I want to animate the size of the circle and the stroke width. To do that, it's not good at all to start working with the layer itself, because you know very well that if you scale up, you are going to scale also the stroke, and it's really ugly. I don't like it like this. So I will use the ellipse path size. So I will keyframe it here, and I want the stroke width over here. I will keyframe it, and the stroke width, for example, I will leave it to 90 because I want to decrease it. The size here, let's leave it to 0, and come, for example, after 20 frames, that will be enough. Increase it so it goes out of the composition, just like this, as simple as this. Okay, you can press a bit of shift to go faster than I'm doing. Then the stroke width here, I'm not going to take it to 0. I'm going to take it, for example, to 20. Now notice the effect here is quite cool. The stroke is getting smaller and the circle is growing and growing. Cool. You can add it to 30. It will be also nice. So we have this animation. Okay, so let's select all the keyframes here. Press F9 to easy ease them. But I want to work only on the size now. So I will go to the graph editor and make a gentle curve. This is a more gentle curve, in my opinion. You can keep it on easy ease, but this will give you a nice influence here. You notice? Pretty cool. You can play with the stroke width if you like to. You can do it just the same. Okay, just like this a bit, and from this side, just a bit. Okay, so it's quite cool. Now, having one layer is fine, but you can add more layers. I will press Ctrl D to add another layer, and Ctrl D another layer. Now, it's nice to have many rings. It's up to you. I prefer to have 2 rings, then the mat itself or the white circle will open to uncover everything. But you can add as many rings as you want. Select all of them, press U to see the keyframes, and now let's start timing them. I will give them 10 frames. The point here is to, not one after the other very fast, but to give them some time. Maybe the last one I'll give it even more. That will be interesting, and it's up to you now to time it the way you would like. The last layer, of course, is going to be the reveal layer. So I will go to the fill here and put full fill. I don't want any stroke at all. And I will have to remove the keyframes from the last one. The stroke is at 0. Here you are, all the way. There is no stroke. So you have 1, 2, and the circle itself, that is the reveal. So it's pretty cool now. Let's go and test it and see, does it work? Is it nice? Is it superb, in fact? Let's press spacebar to play. Well, it is not that good because the color here, I think it is too dark. Maybe we'll change them. We will go to the speed matte and select the 2 layers here and go to the stroke and make them a bit lighter towards the white. So it gives us certain influence, but it's not gonna show too much. Just like this will do, I think so. Let's go back, see the effect here. Press spacebar to play. Here you are, not bad at all. You notice the first one and the second one. Now there are very many variations that you can do here. For example, if you go back to the same one and at the first keyframe here, you want maybe to increase the size to 120 of the stroke, and the stroke will be going, very big and then getting smaller. That's up to you. I'll give it, for example, here 100, and also for the same here, I'll press I for in point and give it 100, just a bit bigger, and let's play it. Not bad at all. I like it very much. Now, if you want to have feathering, of course, you have to come to Effect and Preset and add the blur, for example, the box blur. I will right click. I will add new adjustment layer, of course, and I added the adjustment layer just above the 2 first circles. I think that will be cool. And let's go to the blur and sharpen. Let's take the fast box blur, put it on the adjustment layer, and just put it, for example, at 5, just to have very light blurring. Let's go back to the animation and see, do you like this? Do you want the blur? So let's play it and see the effect of the blur. If you like it, that's fine. It's just pretty speedy. You can see it a little. I will not put a blur here. I will keep them very sharp. So this is the transition. It's up to you now to do some changes, play with it. Maybe also you can duplicate and have circles coming from both sides, not just from the middle. But for now, I showed you the principle. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next lecture with a new matte. Welcome guys to multiple center slide. Again, we are going to use the radial wipe with some more keyframes to create this kind of transition. Notice here, you can change a lot in this transition so it fits your need. You can rotate it even more on going up and down instead of left and right, or even on the corners. So you can have a variety of transitions within your project. So let's start creating this transition. I, of course, created Matte 7 now, multiple center slide, put it on our test video, and we can double click and start creating the animation. As usual, I'm gonna use the rectangle tool, double click to create a full rectangle. For now, I can care less about the color. Let's go to Effects and Preset, and you have the radial wipe. If you search for radial, you will find a radial wipe here. Click and drag and drop it on the rectangle. Now we are going to animate it first of all both. Okay, that's one. Second, we are going to change the start angle to 90 degrees to start with. So now if you scrub through, you notice it's opening just like this. Okay, so here it's 50%. Cool. So I will come to 20 frames here and keyframe the transition completion at 50%. And I will also keyframe the wipe center just in the center of the composition over here. If I click and drag, you can see the wipe center over here. I will undo this. Okay, so we have put these two keyframes. Now we come back to the beginning and we are going to take the wipe center to the left side. So it's enough to put a 0 on the x-axis. Here is the wipe center. And now we are going to take the transition completion to 100%. Okay, now notice what's happening here. It will open just like a simple arrow and it will stop. Pretty cool. Right, guys? Fine. So we're opening one half here, and then, of course, you know now we replicate the composition itself and we open the second half. That's one way to do it. Now, if you're happy here, you can just slide it till the end. For example, if I come to this keyframe and take it to 1920. So now you have a slide coming from here and sliding just like this, and if you replicate the layers you will have a different transition. But for now, let's stop over here. Select all the keyframes here, press F9 and go to the graph, of course, and do something very simple just like this. Okay, look at the animation, not bad, it settles nicely. That's one. Now we wanted to duplicate these layers. Of course, I press Ctrl D. Here you are. Maybe have 5 layers here is cool. And then we are going to sequence them. Select all of them. Press U to see the keyframes. And start by the bottom one. We leave it here. Go 5 frames, for example. Another 5 frames. Go up a bit. Another 5 frames just here. And the last one at 20 frames. Okay. Let's look at the animation here. It is cool enough. Fine. We don't see it because we have always the same color. So the top layer is gonna be white. It's the same, you know already about it. Then the second layer here, let's make it this one, you know, darker. So we go to the fill and we take it down. Okay. Here you are. And then the below one, we click on the fill and we take it up just over here, for example. Here you are, we can see them now. And this one we are going to change and make it dark. Okay. And then the last one we are going to make it quite light. If you can see it, where is it? Yep, it's over here. We do like this. Cool. Let's see the animation now. We have one dark, one light, and it's pretty cool. And the last one is totally white. Here you are. Fine. Let's go see it. Is it nice enough here? We press spacebar to play. Here you are. Not bad at all. It's coming up nicely. If you notice the color influence here, quite dark, revealing, and here is not revealing, and the other one is revealing a bit more. And here you are. Cool. Let's go back. And now, of course, what you want to do, I'm sure you already guessed, is to pre-compose. I will turn them all up and then right click and pre-compose and call it Mat 7 side. We click OK. Let's go back to the same composition and then we duplicate this one and we open any of them. We press R for rotation and we rotate it at 180 degree. Now it's like magic. It's working from both sides. Pretty cool and pretty easy, by the way, guys. Let's go back to the main one. Decide, okay, is this what we like? Let's press spacebar to see exactly what you have done. It's not bad at all. It's pretty beautiful. Here you are. It's a very nice animation. I hope you will use it. I would use this one if I had an action movie, for example, you know, things are coming together or you are relating another battlefield, something like this, quite some energetic movies. I will use this transition. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next lecture. Let's create this transition together. The purpose here is to create this transition with you, that's very true, but also to show you how to use a simple effect, the transform effect, to create different versions of this transition with ease and simplicity. So let's start. Of course, I created Mat 8 now. I dropped it in the test video comp to test it, and it's absolutely empty, and we start from here. Of course, as you know me, I will start with the rectangle. Double click to create a full rectangle. We can care less about the color for now. In this case, we are going to use the scale for the layer, even if we are going to add a stroke later on. After 1 second, I want this layer to be in this position. I'll keyframe the scale and come back to the beginning here and unchain the link and just scale it on the vertical or the x-axis. So I'll put it to 0. So I have a very simple animation, the rectangle is just opening, not much. I will select the 2 keyframes, press F9, go to the graph editor and change it a bit the way you would like. You can make it speedy. Okay, something like this will be always nice in my opinion. Of course, you can work on it and make it much nicer. The next step will be to duplicate this layer. Let's say we make 5 of them or 4, any number you like. And I will select them all, press U and start timing them. So I will move them on the right 5 frames at a time. Now what I like to do is the last one to delay it a bit, give it more importance if you like, and make it even a bit shorter. Here you are. Okay, and this last one should have the color, of course, white to be the main reveal. Cool. Let's start changing the colors just over here. For example, we come to this layer, we click on the fill. Now you can start with a dark color, so dark, bright, okay. I'll start here dark, then even I'm gonna make it darker a bit. Let's go down a bit. Okay, then I'm gonna make the middle one light. Okay, you can explore with other colors like the blue and so on. I will make it just over here. Then the one after, let's go to the fill and make it also darker, just like this. Cool. So you are alternating between the luminous. So you have 1, 2, and 3. Quite a nice animation. Let's go to the test video. And now you play. It's not bad. It's cool. Let's see it in real time. It's pretty cool. Now, the purpose here, of course, is to use an effect to create several versions of this animation, rotating it, scaling it more or less, depending on what you want to create. Let's go to the mat itself. Fine. And here, let's add a new adjustment layer. Okay, so I will apply the effect on the adjustment layer, and all the layers beneath the adjustment layer will also be affected. The effect is transform. If you click and look for transform, you will find the transform effect over here, and it has been sped up. Okay, and it's working on 32-bit color. That's not bad at all. Let's take it and drop it on the adjustment layer. So what can you do with the transform? Notice what's going to happen. If, for example, I rotate, all the layers beneath are going to rotate. This is almost equivalent to pre-composing and playing with the composition. But with this layer, it's easier. For example, let's rotate it at 90 degrees. Okay. Now, it being a rotation now, let's come down a bit. Okay. If you come to the scale, you have a uniform scale. If you uncheck, you will have scale height and scale width. Let's change the scale height. Of course, we rotated it 90 degrees. So you are playing now with the scale height. You can make it smaller or bigger. Okay, this is because of the rotation. It makes sense. Now, what happened? That you have created the same transition, but it's another version where it's going horizontal. Okay, the reveal is horizontal. Let's go to the main one and press space bar to play. Here you are. It's pretty cool. Okay, so let's say you want to play more games here. You can come to the adjustment layer here, come over and keyframe the rotation, for example. Go to a certain point, okay, and make it, I don't know, a full rotation, one full rotation. Here you are. So now you have all the layers rotating. Of course, now it's somehow a very dynamic transition. If you go back to your test video, you can test it. Here you are. It's pretty cool. Okay, guys, so the concept here that you can create a transition, then add the adjustment layer, and add the transform effect and start playing around to have multiple versions of your animation. If you're trying to sell your mat, this is something you should do. Give the customer these options. You don't have to cost him 80 mats. Tell him one and you get 5 of them, on different angles or different speed, and he will be very happy. He'll buy from you again. Thank you very much for listening, guys. In the next lecture, we will go for another mat. I'll see you then. Hi guys, and welcome to Circle Wipes. We're gonna do this transition, but also I'll show you some other variety for this transition. We're gonna give it some modifications. These transitions are very popular, and then if you work on them, try to create something a bit more original. You can use them a lot in your projects. So let's start. I created mat 9 circles wipes, and then I put it in our promo video here, or the test video, and it's absolutely blank. So let's double click and start creating our circle. I will use the circle tool here, the ellipse tool, and draw a circle. Of course, we want it in the middle of the composition, so we'll come to transform as ellipse 1, and we put the position to 0 and 0. It is centered. Now the next effect we are going to use is the radial wipe. I will go to transition, and I'm not going to use the preset, of course, and go and click on radial wipe, drag it and drop it on the circle. Fine, we start creating our animation here. We have our composition of 2 seconds, of course. We are going to keyframe at 100%, so we have nothing. I will keyframe, come back, for example, after 1 second, put it at 0%. That's it. Now, if you like, you can put it counterclockwise. You wipe clockwise because we went from 100 to 0. Having done this, we are going to duplicate this layer, let's say 5 times. Okay, so I will duplicate 5 times. And then, of course, I want to scale them up to fill the whole composition. So I will select layer 1 and change its color. This is going to be the bottom layer because it's the last one. And go towards, for example, something that is grayish. Okay, something like this will do. Of course, I'm going to open the scale, but now I'm going to scale it to fill the whole composition. Just like this. Okay, fine. Let's go to shape layer 2. And we open the scale. Then we go and change the color. Now, the other one, we have taken it a bit grayish. So this one will make it a bit whiter, for example, a bit more maybe. Cool. Before we start scaling, we notice that the last circle will be 500. Of course, it covers everything. But now we don't want just to scale randomly, want to give them a difference. So there are 5 circles here, and the last one is the one that's going to open the mat itself. So make this one 400, then the number 3 will be 300. 200, and this one will be 100. Then we grow to fill everything. Cool. So let's put this one at 400, and then we come to the other one. That's layer number 3. We open the scale. We can make it 300 and change its color. Like you notice, I'm gonna go a bit darker. Okay, something like this. Fine. Maybe shape layer 2 is too white, so you can reduce the whiteness a bit. Okay, fine. So I'm alternating here. Let's go to number 4 now, open the scale and scale it at 200. So notice now they're coming up, with equal distance, which is pretty cool. So this one should be clearer. Let's go like this. Okay. And the last one, we are going to keep it at 100. So you have your animation now, very simple, just coming up together. Fine, let's time them. I will go up a bit, select all the layers, press U for the keyframes we have done, and just shift them, for example, 5 frames or any number of frames you like, depending on the speed you would like them to open. Cool. That's very fine. So now if you play, you notice you have a very nice animation. Let's select all the keyframes, of course. Press F9 to easy ease them. Now if you play, you notice your animation is quite smooth. Fine. The last layer now has to open for the remaining time to show us the whole mat. So over here, for example, you can open the scale S and keyframe the scale at 100%. Then go to 2 seconds, that's the end, and make it as much as possible to open. Here you are. So now if you play your animation, it's cool, but not that cool. I don't like it this way. Let's give it time to render. and you notice what's happening, that it's opening here pretty fast. Let's select the two keyframes and press F9. We come to the keyframes here, both of them, and take this one, the scale, of course, and put it in the beginning. Okay, let's put it over here, for example. Notice what's happening now. Okay, go back to the beginning, play our animation, and this guy will be opening while the others are coming in. Okay, you see it now? That's pretty cool, I think. Let's go back maybe and give it some more time. Yes, so if you come back to your test video, you will notice that it's pretty cool how it's gonna play. Let's press the spacebar and play. It's pretty cool, and the last one will open. Now, of course, you can go and change the colors here to give it more accent for the Luma matte. I find it quite good in our case here. Not bad at all. So this is your transition. It's very easy, it's simple, and it's very much used. You can go back and work on the colors here. Maybe you give it more colors with luminance or something like this, and play on the scale, wherever you want to put it, something like this. For example, it started growing the scale from here, and notice the last circle is gonna end up coming big if you like to, and closing all the circles before even they arrive over here. Here you are. Okay, notice it's closing all the time. It's up to you, you can do a lot of variation here. You can play with the scale, you can play with the transition, anything that you would like. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next lecture. In this lecture, guys, we are going to use the circle wipes transition that you have done in the previous lecture and do some amendments or some changes, and then we're going to come up with this transition. Now, I advise you to always do that. Create a transition and see exactly what can you change to have a new transition. People like that. You give them variety. And if you're commercializing your transitions, you're trying to sell them, then this is something that you should do, and clients will be happy from you. Cool. So let's start. I will take circle wipes and just duplicate it. I will get circle wipes 2. Then we're going to drop it inside our test video. I click on the one inside the project panel, press Alt or Option on the Mac, click and drag and just drop it on top. Okay, you know that already. So let's double click on the new pre-comp, and then we select all our layers. Let's come over here. Now the first change I'm gonna do is to remove the fill from all of them, so there is no fill at all. And the second one is to increase the stroke. Okay, I can put it, for example, at 40. I like round numbers. That's cool. Now, notice what's happening here. The stroke is not 40 for each one of them. This is because we have used the scale over here, and the last one is scaled at 500. So you notice the stroke is very big. And of course, if you remember, we had our scaling here. This layer was being scaled up, so we're gonna eliminate the scale. So we press on the scale itself. So we have just a simple animation. Fine, I will select all layers now and go back and put the stroke to complete white. Okay, guys? So if you come over here, it's pretty cool, by the way. Notice you have these lines. And we come back here. Now, how are we gonna fill it all with white? Well, very easy. I'm gonna take this layer only, the smallest layer, and scroll down to find the stroke. So we have here inside contents, ellipse 1, you have the stroke, and we have the stroke width. So I will keyframe it over here, and then come back at the end, okay, and make the stroke as big as possible to fill everything, as simple as that. Here you are. Okay, pretty cool. In fact, I think I went too much with the shift. Here you are, one, and that's it. Cool. If you look at the animation now, it opens the circles. Very nice. Then it goes, 100% white for the matte. Let's go and see it over here. Let's come over here and press spacebar to play it. You have a very nice animation. It's a bit slow, this one, so you can make it speedier. Actually, you can come over here and make it much speedier from here. Let's make it at, for example, 80% and adjust it a bit. And if you play it, now it's much speedier. So this is a tip on how to make changes and get a new kind of transition. Of course, when you come over here now, you can just roll them all up and add an adjustment layer. I will come new adjustment layer here, and you can decide, okay, I want to blur them a bit, blur the borders or the stroke itself. You can use the fast box blur. Click and pull over here. Just give it just a bit. Here you are. In fact, that's a lot. Let's make it only 2. I will go for 2. Yeah, this is pretty nice. You come back here and you have something pretty beautiful working for you. So it's actually very easy to think a bit and decide, okay, this is how I want to change the animation. Let's see the best way. But don't create a work for you for 2 days. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next lecture.